This is the inside of the Auto Sleeper Warwick Duo. If I firstly move to the main control panel, I can turn the 12 volt on at this point just here. You will see along the top here we have the external temperature. It's currently letting us know that we are connected to the main supply. It's giving us the humidity just here and the internal temperature just here, and then we just have the clock and the Auto Sleeper logo and the date at the bottom. To turn the water pump on and off, just highlight the little picture of the tap just here. We need the water pump on so we can get water out of the taps and fill the boiler if it has been drained down. Level indicators just here, so this one will give us an indication of how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank. And then this one will give an indication of both the leisure battery and the vehicle battery, the active battery's current at the moment, and then we have the mains current just there, and whenever the solar panel is active it will display it just here. You can also know that the solar panel is active because a little sun will flash up next to roughly about where the mains supply lightning strike is to indicate it's active as well. The main isolator for all of the onboard lights just here, and then we have awning light on and off, and it will also do the little entrance light just there as well. Battery selection just here, so V for vehicle, L for leisure. Whichever battery is selected on here is the battery you are using and the battery that is being charged from the main supply. At the moment the charging is set to smart, so it will flip between the batteries as it's required. If I now press the little picture of the cog just here, we will go into the settings menu. So as you can see, if I just do that now, everything is now set into smart mode. So the batteries will just be charged by either the main supply or the solar whenever required. And as you can now see, because I've now put the solar into smart, it's just come back on. Automatic tank fill just here. So this is what you need to activate if you are going to use the whale filler on the outside. And then we have tank heaters just here for both the waste and the fresh tanks. At the moment now they're sitting in a dormant state. If the temperature outside drops below about 3 or 4 degrees, the tank heaters will then come on to avoid any frost damage. If they are highlighted in black, they will not come on at all. Lights that will come on when the main power is turned on the control panel. So at the moment the main lights will come on, but the awning light will not. This is just down to personal preference. You can just turn them on and off just by touching. The screen settings just here, so whether or not you want key beeps on. Water level alarms, so at the moment they are on, so it will let you know when your fresh is low and your waste is high. You can have tank fill beeps on as well if you wish. Set the backlight level of the control panel and how quickly it times out when you are not using it. And then set your date and your time just here. And then we end up back at the beginning again. Beside this, we then have the control panel for the whale heating and hot water. You'll see we have 2 buttons, and the top one being the water heater and the bottom one being the heating. So if I start with the water heater and I just begin to press the button, you'll see we get a series of icons until it eventually ends up back at off. So if we start with the first one just here, a little picture of a snowflake. This is the boiler's frost protection mode. So if you don't necessarily want to be heating hot water up to a high temperature, you can just pop this on and it will just pop a residual amount of heat into the boiler to avoid any frost damage. We then have a single wavy line, and wavy lines represent mains electricity, and I always just round it up just to make it easier, and I just class this as 1 kilowatt. We then have 2 wavy lines, so about 2 kilowatts. So those 2 settings just there, just dependent on the ampage of the site you're on to try and avoid tripping. If we have no mains, we can run on the gas. And if we have both power sources available to us, we can run in dual fuel. So a mixture of gas and mains at 1 kilowatt and a mixture of gas and mains at 2 kilowatts. Dual fuel is very handy, especially in the winter months, if you want to get up to temperature nice and quickly. Whenever the unit is consuming gas, you will get a little flame just appear to let you know. If I now drop down to the heating, it works very similar. So again, we get the series of icons until we end up back at off. So if we start with the first one, again, a single wavy line to main supply, but this time it's about 500 watts. We then have 2 wavy lines, 1 kilowatt, and 3 wavy lines about 2 kilowatts. So again, just dependent on the ampage of the site you're on. We then have gas on its own again, and then dual fuel, and we control the temperature on the plus and the minus just here. Well, recommend dropping all the way down to the little picture of the moon if you need your heating on whilst you're asleep, as it is a low temperature and the fan will be nice and quiet. It will maintain about 16 degrees. As you can now see, the water heater has fired up on gas, so we're just literally just waiting for the heating to fire up. They can sometimes take a little bit longer, especially if your gas tank has been fully depleted, as it needs to purge all the air out of the system. If for any reason there is a problem with either the water heater or the heating, it will let you know on this control panel. So if it's a water heater issue, a little red exclamation mark will appear here, and if it's a heating issue, the red exclamation mark will appear here. All you need to do to find out what the problem is, if it's a water heater issue, just press this button just here and hold it, and you'll get a series of red dots. And if it's a heating issue, hold the heater, series of red dots. Then within the manual, or if you Google it, it will tell you what the problem is. 9 times out of 10 it will be something relatively easy, like you don't have main supply or you've got no gas, etc. Once you think you've rectified the problem, you will need to reset the control panel. So if it's a water heater issue, just literally hold the water heater button and then press plus at the same time. And if it's a heating issue, press the heater and again press plus at the same time. And as you can now see, the heating is now happily running on gas and main supply as well. If I now move to the rear of the motorhome and just remove the bench seat cushions, and I now just lift up, you will see the whale boiler just here. To drain the boiler down for winterization, it's all just done on the yellow lever just here. Before draining, make sure that you have turned off the water pump, and then it's just a matter of rotating around like so, and then all the water will drain out of the boiler underneath the motorhome. If you are fully winterizing, I always suggest that you then also open up all of the taps as well, because this will help release any airlocks in the system and make it drain down far more efficiently. When it comes to refilling everything, make sure the taps are closed. Close the boiler drain valve, fill up the fresh water tank, and then turn on the water pump. The boiler will then begin to refill itself. Let the pump run for a few minutes and then begin opening the taps. They'll cough and splutter as they force the air out of the system. Once everything is running on both hot and cold, reclose, and then the system will fully reprime itself. If you are finding that the water pump is massively overrunning, you can adjust the pressure switch, which is just tucked at the back here, by just turning this top part here. Only do very, very tiny little adjustments, Never spin it right the way round, or otherwise you will throw it just completely out of sync. Just tucked up there, right at the very back in the shadows, is the solenoid that just controls the flow of water from that whale filler point on the outside. Also in here we have the leisure battery just there, then we have the main 25 amp fuse just there off it. There are some fuses just tucked down here. They are labelled up and are for mainly components on the outside of the van. And then we have the consumer unit just here. So we have the main strip switches. So we've got the individual MCBs, the main RCD and the test button just there. So if anything is not working on main supply, just check to see if you've tripped at this point here. If you haven't, it's more than likely you've tripped at the site end. And then we have the 12 volt fuses just there. If any of these fuses blow, a red light will illuminate underneath it, which makes it easy to diagnose. So if anything's not working on 12 volt, just check at this point here. We have 2 isolator switches just here for components that use main supply. So if this amber one here is turned off, both the whale heating and hot water systems will not work on main supply. And this green one here is for the battery charger. And again, if this is turned off, you will not be able to charge either the leisure or the vehicle battery. This will illuminate if you have reverse polarity connected to the van. This can sometimes be found on some continental sites. And then tucked over here we have full system shutdown. So if you're not using the van for long periods of time, you can press this and it will kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. Gas isolation tap just here for the boiler. They are in the on position, and quite frankly they can stay like that. I always say if you do smell gas in the van, it's always best to actually go underneath it and isolate the gas tank itself. But in an absolute emergency, obviously you can do it inside the van. Underneath the opposite bench seat you will find a good size storage, and you can see the clips that just hold that side piece on, and obviously it can be removed if you need to slide anything long underneath the bench seat. In the overhead locker just here you will find the digital amplifier for the max view television aerial on the roof, on and off just here, and then control the boost. Obviously always make sure it's on before trying to tune a television in. Also in here we have the mobile Wi-Fi unit. At the moment there is no SIM card in it, but you are supplied with one from Auto Sleeper. So you can use this one if you want, or you can just literally use any of your own SIM cards, as it were. You literally just need to remove the back, insert the SIM card, and then it's just a matter of turning the unit on and then literally connecting up to it all. Wardrobe just here. So you'll find the table pole and the tabletop in here. We then have the hob. So we've got 3 gas rings, and it's just a matter of pushing in, twisting around and pressing the igniter. And then beneath that we have the oven and the grill. And again, if I now just push in and go to the left, I can fire up the oven. And then go back to the off point and then push in and go to the right and then fire up the grill. Storage beneath and beside, and then just tucked down here you will find the majority of the rest of the gas isolation taps. So we have the fridge, and then we have the cooker, and at the bottom there the heating. Dometic three-way fridge just here, on and off just here. And then the first one is mains electricity. Then we have gas. If when you press it you get this noise, just press this button just here and then it will reattempt to light itself. It can sometimes take a couple of goes, especially again when the gas tank has been refilled. And then lastly we have 12 volt maintain. So it will beep at the moment because the engine is currently not running. This is what we have it on to keep the fridge cold whilst on the move. Temperature control just here, and then we have the removable freezer box at the top just here to vent the fridge when not in use. Just push this section in and then just slide out, and then it will then allow the fridge door to hold on a jar. Microwave just here. Always advisable to make sure that any contents that are left in it are removed before travel. Isolator just at the top here. This particular microwave does not require a microwave plate. And then we have the usual just here, like literally quick start and stop, etc. Then we have power settings. Very handy depending on the ampage of the site that you're on, etc. And then we have like express cook, defrost, all the usual stuff that you'd find on most modern microwaves nowadays. Directly underneath that is the extractor. So we have 2 fan speeds and 2 light levels. Washroom just here. And we have the cassette toilet. So to open to the cassette, just slide the lever across, push to flush on the blue button, and you will get an illumination just here when the cassette needs emptying. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure that nobody's left this open. We have the pull down basin. And it is just a matter of pouring it away nice and steadily to drain the water. And then we have the shower just here and the shower curtain. With the beds you can have 2 nice singles, or if you're going to have a double, it's just a matter of pulling the sections both across so they meet and then just dropping these cushions into the centre. The large freestanding table is just located above the cab.